In this video, we are going to learn how to factor by grouping. Factoring by grouping typically happens when you have 4 terms. So let's make sure that that's the case here. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Great. So what we're going to do is we're basically going to put parentheses around the first 2 set of terms and parentheses around the second 2 set of terms. So let's go ahead and rewrite that out. So we get 4k cubed plus k squared plus, and then in the second set of parentheses we have 28k plus 7. Now what we want to do is in each set of parentheses we want to factor out the greatest common factor. So in the first set of parentheses we have 4k cubed plus k squared. Both of those have a factor or common factor of k squared. So I'm going to factor out k squared from both of those terms, and then we're left with 4k plus 1. In the second set of parentheses, I have 28k plus 7, and the greatest common factor between those two terms is 7, so I'm going to factor out 7, and that's going to leave me with 4k plus 1. Now, typically, a way that you can tell that you're doing this correctly or that you're on the right track is that after you've factored out the greatest common factor, the remaining thing inside of each set of parentheses should be the same thing. Because they're the same, both terms have them in common, we could then factor that out from each of these terms. And if you have a hard time understanding why that is, sometimes students get confused because there's multiple terms. If that's confusing you, you could always think of this as like an additional variable. So what if I said let star equal 4k plus 1? So if I did that, I have k squared times star plus 7 times star. So both of these have a star in common, so I can factor out my star, and I'll be left with k squared plus 7. But we let star equal 4k plus 1, and so I could just fill that back in, 4k plus 1 times k squared plus 7. And now we have successfully factored the original expression by grouping. So this is our final factored answer. And one way that you can check to see if we factored it correctly is by multiplying this out. So let's do that really quickly. 4k times k squared is 4k cubed. 4k times 7 gives us 28k. 1 times k squared is plus k squared, and then 1 times 7 is plus 7. And notice if I rearrange the terms, which I can do, I get back the original expression. So that tells us that we have factored this thing correctly. Example 2 says, factor 8n cubed minus 24n squared plus 7n minus 21 by grouping. So just like last time, I'm going to group these, the first 2 terms together, and I'm going to group the second 2 terms together as well. So what is the greatest common factor in the first set of parentheses? Well, we could factor out 8n squared, and then that will leave us with n minus 3. And in the second set of parentheses, I could factor out a 7, and I would be left with n minus 3. Now again, just like last time, notice that we have the n minus 3 in common, so we can factor that out. So I'll factor out n minus 3, and what's going to be left over is 8n squared plus 7. And that is how you factor that expression by grouping.